I cannot think of a game where they've been punished like this.
He's giving the players licence to pretty much go where they want.
Yeah.
I think that's the blueprint.
Yeah.
That has to be the blueprint
Yes.
for the rest of this season.
Let's be honest, guys. Who's looked at flights to Madrid?
Quarterfinals is staring us in the face, isn't it? But what I would like to see is new knowledge come into the football club.
Someone coming in with different experiences, different contacts, different ways of working might just freshen things up.
Everybody watching and listening, and we all us three, we're expecting something to happen in the next 2 years, aren't we? That's going to stay in our memories forever.
You can see the headlines, can't you? You know, teenager that snubbed Arsenal scores a hat-trick against them.
Release the carnage and see what they're capable of.
Just like London buses, you wait for one and then 7 come along at once. I'm Harry Symeou and this is Inside Gooners. Yes, a monumental win for Arsenal in Europe, and joining me today to discuss it are two of the heavyweights in the Arsenal space. I'm delighted to say alongside me is Arsenal Vision podcaster Clive Palmer and former Arsenal midfielder Adrian Clarke. Guys, no one saw that coming, did they, given our goal-scoring issues?
Well, we did. No, we didn't. Nothing at all. I was happy for 0-0 pre-game, so that was a real surprise.
Yeah, even at half-time, I was saying I'm more than happy if the second half is a non-event. And of course, 2 or 3 minutes in, we were 5-1 up, so happy days. No, it was a night to remember.
Right then, let's get into last night's game in a lot more detail. And joining us now is Dutch football expert Marcel van der Kraan. Marcel, welcome to Inside Gooners. We didn't see it coming. Did you see that coming?
Well, I saw a small defeat coming because I could tell the way PSV were crashing after the winter break in the Dutch league. It wasn't giving us much hope for this tie, and especially with the amount of quality that Arsenal have on the pitch. I know they have not been scoring many goals in England, but there is always the potential, and the potential really, really came at the wrong moment for PSV Eindhoven. Every fan in Eindhoven, everybody in that stadium was completely knocked back by what they saw from Arsenal last night.
I mean, Arsenal were brilliant, there's no doubt about that. But from a PSV perspective, should they have modified their game plan a little bit? We all expected them to come out and play on the front foot and leave spaces. That's exactly what they did, and Arsenal were able to expose those. Is there a case, and is there some talk now in the Netherlands that maybe PSV were a little bit naive in their approach?
The manager of PSV Eindhoven, Peter Bos, has been really applauded for his lovely attacking style of football. He's a typical Dutch coach. You know, in the 70s, we played like this, you know, on the front foot, high pressure, grab the opponent by the throat. For that reason, Peter Bos is also a major lover of Pep Guardiola's style and attacking ways. He wanted to do that right from the start of his career. He's done it everywhere, Olympique Lyon, Dortmund, Leverkusen, and he's done it at PSV Eindhoven. Last year, it brought a lot of success. You know, he won the league and he qualified for Europe, for the Champions League. And in this Champions League, only a couple of weeks ago, they had this fantastic game with exactly the same approach and the same attacking style against Juventus. If that game hadn't been going so well, it would have been a reason to adapt against Arsenal. But Bos is a man who sticks to his own principles, and sometimes you get the lid on your nose, we say here, and that really, really happened yesterday. I cannot think of a game of PSV Eindhoven in their entire European history, and they play some great games, great competition, never where they've been punished like this by a side.
Marcel, I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, was there much anger among the PSV fans around the possibility of Miles Lewis-Skelly being sent off for a second yellow card? There's no doubt that he was a little bit fortunate not to pick up a second caution, or did things just escalate so much that that's almost a side issue now? And the second part of my question is regarding the second leg. There's talk about Mikel Arteta resting players, but do you think Peter Bosz will play the kids as well?
Well, about the second yellow card, which should have been handed out, in my opinion, in the eyes of everybody in the stand, you could probably see some of the fans in the slow motion of the TV footage that the fans were going absolutely mental, and that was really the feeling. And Peter Bosz didn't want to carry on too much after the game about this tackle, because it looks silly when you start moaning about that when you've just had 7 goals against you. But it would have made, of course, a big difference in that game. And I think he was extremely lucky, and nobody can believe what this referee, what was in his mind, not to punish him with that second yellow, especially when you saw the footage from behind, the slow motion. It looked even worse. You know, it could have been a straight red, but maybe I'm too Dutch here and not.
Come on, Marcel.
But you know, it would have made a difference, of course, in this game. And it's one of those nights when everything goes against you. And of course, the fans start to realise no point in the second half moaning about this moment anymore, because we are just being played off the park by this Arsenal side. And was there anger? Yes and no. There is frustration, because when you've been watching a side by the same coach, the same players who played for the last 18 months up until Christmas, absolutely brilliant football. There was a moment that all the media in the Netherlands was saying, look, the Eredivisie has gone so boring. We might as well hand the trophy in the Eredivisie to PSV Eindhoven at Christmas, and then we can all start with a clean slate. The downfall is absolutely not understandable for anyone. And maybe one thing helped to avoid any real anger in the stadium. It's carnival in the Netherlands, and especially Eindhoven is one. It was the capital of Netherlands carnival. The fans probably had a couple of pints before the game as well.
At least they had a good time if they didn't get the result that they were looking for. Marcel, thank you very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate your insights.
Cheers, guys.
Clive, let's start with you on this, because I think the big question off the back of last night's result and performance is what was different? This is a team that for a couple of games now, we've been looking at them and being a little bit frustrated by the lack of creativity, the lack of spark in the final third. Yet everything seemed to click yesterday. So what, in your eyes, was different?
Oh, see, I think for me, when people talk about creativity, they tend to think about, oh, this creative player is not playing well. When I think of creativity, I think of movement, because a passer needs someone to pass to. And I thought our movement was really, really unstructured and really, really good. A couple of things that really went for us in the game. I thought our centre-backs pushed up against Luke de Jong really, really well, and they knew he wasn't going to run in behind them, so they squeezed. And suddenly it became a smaller pitch, right? So you have a situation where we've got a few creative players, but creative players are really good when they're quite close to other creative players, because they can use proximity to really move the ball and go around corners. So I thought the way the game plan was set up was really, really good. But for me, I'm sure Adrian's quite good at this stuff as well. So I thought the key was our centre-backs that were magnificent to start with, but the key was our full-backs. I thought their running lines, if you look at the first 2 goals, all in that sort of inside pass space, the runners there, that to me was key. Their freedom of movement, where they were allowed to go, because we had a solid platform, was the key to adding more threat to that backline. With threat, suddenly our passing players look quite good. When you've got no one to pass to, Adrian, it didn't really matter, does it? You can be the best passer and creative player in the world. All you end up doing is drilling a hole in the ground, going round and round and round until you hit oil. Right, so I thought it was a fantastic, fluid performance.
Adrian, what did you make of Arsenal tactically? Clive's touched on a couple of the elements, but there were some differences, wasn't there?
Yeah, brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah, I think that football and football tactics is so much about mathematics, and it's about angles. And when Arsenal aren't at their best, they play in straight lines, and the movement is very predictable. What we saw in this game was chaos. It was carnage. It was mayhem, chaos. All of these terms, and it was excellent. It was exactly what this team needs. When you've got no real striker at the top end of the pitch, you have to be a bit more creative. And by taking up different angles, like you say, the fullbacks driving in from the wing into the side channels, we saw Declan Rice practically playing as a left winger in the first half. Jurriën Timber pops up at the far stick to get on the end of a Declan Rice cross. That's not supposed to happen, but Arsenal played with that imagination and freedom in this game. And PSV just didn't, it completely bamboozled them. The fullbacks were outstanding. you know, we saw it for the Trossard goal, you know, that lovely 1-2 or the double 1-2 with Calafiori and Trossard. I mean, what was Calafiori doing in the box for the goal that he scored? We saw Jurriën Timber pop up as a striker at times. That mayhem was magical, and it was also by design.
Yeah,
Mikel Arteta had clearly spoken to the players. I don't think it's the sort of thing you work on, because it's not structured.
No.
But it is, he's giving the players license to pretty much go where they want.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I loved it.
And that's one of the things that Mikel Arteta is sometimes accused of not giving his players enough of, right? That license to go into different positions. And just to add to what you two guys have been saying, I think it was the rotations as well. Not just sort of people taking up different angles and going into different areas of the pitch. It was the fact that Timber would pop up as a right winger and Partey, for instance, would have the presence of mind to say, right, I need to tuck in at right back in case we lose the ball. And you'd seen Nwaneri come from the right over to the left, and Lewis Skelly would invert sometimes, and other times he would sort of go on the outside. I think it was that variation that was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think chaos is a great phrase. I think the way Mikel described it was players taking initiative. Yeah. And it's the same thing, different phrase, right? So like, but I'm a big believer in this. When you can see it and it's just over there, you'll go and get it. If you can see something but it's 40 yards away and you're not compact enough, you become a spectator. And I felt we were all contributing because our distances were so nicely tight, particularly offensively and defensively. So I think that's a key thing for this group, particularly the players that we have who do like to travel. Timber's a great example of that. I mean, Timber was man of the match in the first 25 minutes, literally was outstanding. Also, he went back home and decided to leave a memory with the public out there, and he was really, really good. So he epitomised where we were going. I think it's a great sort of principle change, Adrian, from maybe the positional play that we do, where we sit in extremities, we stretch teams, which is great when you've got your one-on-one travellers on the outside and pace. When you haven't, you've got to do something else. You've got to create a different picture. And I thought he adjusted brilliantly by just letting the handbrake off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also travelling with the ball. I don't know how the stats finished actually, but at half-time, I think we'd had 11 dribbles. PSV had had 1. And that also spoke volumes. When you are maybe lacking some of your star players and whatnot, the movement that we've talked about is important, but so too is doing things that are unpredictable.
You guys have both mentioned adjustment, adaptation. Adrian, Mikel Merino's had to do a lot of that, playing at centre forward. He's got three goals across 4 games. There's a lot of centre forwards out there in the market that wouldn't give you that. So are we a little bit, do we have to cut him some slack essentially, because he is playing at our position?
I mean, he shouldn't face any criticism at all. I mean, he's just being asked to do a job that is completely alien to him, but we can make it work. You know, Liverpool went to the Etihad and played with no strikers, and they wiped the floor with them. So it's just adapting. I'm not fixated on formations really, or who has to play where, especially when we play like we did against PSV, where really no one had a fixed position at all. I think Mikel Merino is a really intelligent guy. He's tactically smart, and he can adapt to it. And I think the team are just in the process of learning how to play with him. So if he drops into midfield to look after the ball, then the players now know someone's got to go beyond. Yeah. I loved his assist for Martin Odegaard. What I really liked about it was he holds the ball up, but look where Odegaard came from. He came from a really deep position. Again, totally unpredictable. And PSV had no answer to it. So the trick now is to transfer that playing style to matches where teams are really defensive and cautious against us. That is the next challenge that we face. And no one can persuade me that we can't do that. It won't be as easy, because PSV definitely made it easy for us with their positive style. But good movement is good movement, no matter whether you're up against an attacking team or a defensive team. So yeah, that's the next challenge.
Clive, what did you make of Declan Rice's performance? He was everywhere last night, wasn't he? Incredible.
Yeah, could have been a bit better. From minute 1, wasn't it? I mean, it's very interesting because he's a player that we all try to pigeonhole into something. And there are days I think, he needs to play deeper. There are days when he plays like last night, he can play higher and no one says a word. I just think we're very fortunate to have him. For me, I watch players in big games, in adversity. Where do they go? And he tends to stand up. And apart from the West Ham game where he didn't really have that sort of personality, since then, like a message was told to him, and I think he's really come back bold. And he was so strong. I think he knew his role, and I think he really enjoyed going into the box, going in there and seeing what could happen. He's getting lighter on his feet. So when that dexterity he just showed for crosses and things like that, he's got a wonderful shot. I think he should score more, Adrian, don't you think?
Definitely.
I think he should score more. His shooting power is excellent. His set-piece prowess is excellent. There's more in there. And I think the manager's trying to get it. You can stick in front and back too if you want. He can do it. But there's more in him. Let's let him travel around that pitch a bit more.
The phrase that Clive used there is playing with personality, and I love that. I love to see players play, show their character in their football. And Declan Rice is doing that at the moment. He leads, doesn't he, by example? There was that one moment where David Raya, I think we're 6 or 7 up, catches it from a corner, and he runs literally from the 6-yard box to the other end of the pitch to win us a corner. I mean, that shows that is setting the tone for the standards that this team sets itself. So yeah, kudos to Rice, phenomenal player, worth every single penny, Harry.
Yeah, absolutely. We were teasing West Ham last season, weren't we? Suggesting that we should pay them more for Declan Rice. Another player that performed last night, and I think really needed to perform given some of the noise around him recently, was Martin Odegaard. I'll start with you, Adrian, on Odegaard. I know Clive's got some thoughts as well on the Norwegian, but it felt like, I wouldn't say he was quite back at his brilliant best, but he certainly looks as though he's on his way back towards it after last night's display.
Yeah, it was the sort of game that suited him for sure, because there was a lot more movement around him, and he had people to find, didn't he, in space. It wasn't just about giving it to someone's feet in this game. He was able to give it to them in front of them, and why? And the reason is because the movement was crazy, and PSV were completely befuddled by it. So he had runs to pick out. The example, the clear one is the Calafiori goal. What a gorgeous little outside of the foot pass that was. He doesn't make that pass if there's no runner. So yeah, I think the way the game panned out worked for him. But it's just great to see him with a spring in his step again, Martin Odegaard, and yeah, hopefully he can kick on from here. But the key to success for Martin is movement around him, and the team delivered that.
Clive, I know you noticed a big difference in the way Odegaard was receiving the ball, but you can say it much more eloquently than me. So go for it.
I've been dumbfounded about where his form's gone. Right, so just been studying him, and I think it is to do with movement. He just bang on. I think he sees pictures really, really well, and a lot is from his scanning and from his first touch. And I watched on the previous games, and his first touch is taking him into the areas where we're not, or maybe we have nobody there. So what he's trying to do is hold on to it a little bit longer. And I know he's doing that to try to get everyone to come up in a unit so we can travel up together and come back together. But he was getting pushed around in collisions a little bit. And I think his first touch decisions last night would take him to the light, from where the trouble was to where the space was or where players are running to. And it came back almost like a minute after he scored. It all flooded back to him. And you hear people like us talk about confidence and everyone raises their eyebrows, but it does mean something. It really does, because as soon as he scored, his confidence came back. And then you might as well give him the man of the match from that moment onwards, because he dictated everything.
Yeah, I just, when I see games where Martin Odegaard doesn't play well, if you look at his touch map, for example, afterwards, there'll just be a cluster of one part of the pitch where he's touched the ball the whole time. And that just makes you a little bit easy to pick up, doesn't it? And I think that when he's really at his rampant best, it's when he goes deep sometimes, when he goes and joins in with a striker, when he pops up on the left-hand side. I think we need to give him a real free rein. I think we're a better side for it then.
While we're on the subject of confidence, we've got to talk Ethan Nwaneri. Became the 3rd youngest scorer in their Champions League knockout tie. Only Bojan and Jude Bellingham were younger. I mean, this guy just gets better and better with every passing week, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think I'm going to send the club a strongly worded email about his ball striking. It's not good enough. Now, that goal, when it went in, what do you all think?
Bosh.
We went, oh, wow, like that. What's happened there? I mean, yeah, he's so brave. He's so brave, isn't he? I mean, the thing that we all know he can kick it, right? So we all know that, right? But to have the confidence come from the right wing, past the penalty spot to the near post. I mean, when you're young, you don't sort of get out of shape, do you, Adrian? You don't get out of shape. Goes to the near post and fires that in. That's the most encouraging thing, because we all know his ability, but the fact he's feeling that he can go anywhere he likes, near that goal, he's going to be a problem, isn't he?
Yeah, you want players to take responsibility, and sometimes you can take responsibility away from them by asking them to be too disciplined, too rigid in their positioning. And I think with Ethan, because he's not a natural right winger, I think he's more of a central player. I think it's really wrong to ask him to go and try and copy Bukayo Saka's positioning, for example. Bukayo has been doing that for years now, even though he can go inside as well. So I think it's really important that moving forwards, Ethan has that freedom as well. I actually see him and Ødegaard as being very like for like. They can just interchange from time to time. I absolutely loved where he scored from.
Yeah.
Because football is about unpredictability. Do things the defenders aren't expecting. And he is doing that now as a matter of course. I mean, no one needs me to sing his praises. He is showing us all what he's about. He is an elite talent. And the future's just scarily good for him.
Yeah, it is. And I'm really enjoying watching him play from week to week. And as you mentioned, for me, the big thing was where he scored the goal from. Yeah. The fact that you look at that area of the pitch and you think maybe the left 8 would attack that space, but it wasn't him. Maybe it would be the centre forward. If anything, next it would be maybe Martin Ødegaard, and it wasn't. It's the guy from all the way over on the other side in terms of his position that's made that run across. And to sense that nice and early and get there was really cool. Marcel mentioned that he thought that Myles Lewis-Skelly should have been sent off. I think we can agree that he was fortunate to avoid another red card. Clive, I don't want to make a big thing of this, because I think when you're assessing red cards and the volume of them, you've got to look at each one individually. But are we getting to a place where we've got a bit of an issue with Myles Lewis-Skelly? Do we need to rein him in a little bit just to prevent him getting into those situations?
I think it's a difficult one for him, because he spent a lot of his time in midfield. You make sort of tackles in midfield, you can sometimes, quick little wave to the ref, sorry ref, because you've got people behind you and you've got people in front of you, it's a crowd scene, and there's no drama in there. When you're making tackles on the last line, in open space, one-on-one, and you go to ground and you don't win it, there's normally only one conclusion from that. So my message to him would be, sometimes, don't worry about it. Let them cross it, but let them cross it under pressure. You're on a yellow card, and your goalkeeper will take the bits and pieces. You haven't got to win every single moment with force. Sometimes just delay and see, wait for people to come around. But he's a young man. I know that now. I'm 106. I didn't know that when I was 18, playing the Champions League last 16. And he's learning, isn't he? He's learning the game. And it's great. We get a chance to have a look, and we didn't pay a price. And so, yeah, it's a matter of time. He'll settle down. Is that a concern for you at all, Adrian, or do you think it is something that naturally he'll just sort of grow into in terms of maturity?
I do think he'll grow into it. Yeah, it's just a case of maturing, isn't it? And making the right decisions. He's learning on the job in front of millions of people watching, in high-profile games, up against really good players. It's tough. And I think the start that he made was maybe... was so unexpected, and now things are levelling out a little bit, and he looks maybe like a natural central midfielder having to play at full-back. So I still think he'll probably end up in midfield, if I'm honest. But there's no reason why he can't continue to shine at left-back. He just needs to sort of ease off maybe from the challenges. I think Mikel Arteta did exactly the right thing. Yeah. He had to remove him. I'd like to it to have happened maybe 5 minutes earlier, just to ease the nerves.
I'm just wondering if I was the only one that thought that. As he got me that tackle, I'm looking at them. Can I see the bench? Who's warming up?
Yeah, it was an absolute no-brainer. I think that Mikel got it bang on.
Given the way everything panned out over in Eindhoven, is there an argument, guys, that European football suits us better, Adrian? Do you think
no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, Premier League teams know what we're about, and they know what we don't like facing. And unfortunately, more and more opponents of Arsenal are coming with a game plan that they've seen other teams deploy and have success with. So With PSV, it was different. And I think because it's cup football, because they're all top teams in their own leagues, and because really, you've got to be attacking, I think, to go through a lot of the time. A lot of the teams left in the competition will back themselves to outscore each other. Look at who we've got to come potentially in the competition. They're all top teams that won't just come and park the bus, I don't think. Maybe Atletico might if they go through to a degree, but it's just, it definitely suits us better, European competition, and we've just got to enjoy it. And look, that really is Arsenal's season at the moment. Can we go and do something special in the Champions League?
Let's be honest, guys. Who's looked at flights to Madrid?
I don't want to look. They're going up.
I'm not looking until it's time to book. I think that's the way to do it. But just on that next round, because I think it's fair to say that we're going to make it now. I'm the last person that would normally sit here and speak like this in this tone, but I really do feel like on this occasion we're allowed. Clive, are you hoping for a Simeone masterclass next week? Given what Adrian's just been saying about the styles and how that kind of goes up against our style, would we be suited to playing them, or?
Well, they're two good sides, aren't they?
Two of the best.
The way we played against PSV, I don't think that suits playing against Real Madrid, because they're quite quick up front, and they could really make us run backwards. So we'd have to have a different game plan. So I think the best thing is, for me, about what we saw last night, which I think is the next evolution of Arsenal's attack, and that is about slightly unstructured running movements. I think, Adrian knows this, we've become quite straight-lined and predictable, and it's all okay for Kai Saka's there because he destroys everybody, right? So we can do it, but we need to make it a bit more collective movement, and I think that is the future. We can do it with different people, but that is the future of where we want to be going forward. I'm convinced about that. That's why I'm more excited about that than I am about the result, because I think that's just a byproduct.
Yeah, when you've got really good defenders like Saliba and Gabriel, good in 1v1s, you can afford to take those risks a little bit more. But yeah, in a two-legged tie against Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid, I don't think you're playing that way in the first half hour of the first leg. I just don't.
For sure.
But what we can do from here on in is flick the switch. And that means, because a lot of managers will think plan B has to be these players come off, these come on. Well, Arsenal can't do that at the moment. The squad's so wafer thin. But what we now know we can do is play a top team, be solid, be structured, play with control, and then at the drop of a hat, Mikel Arteta can click his fingers and say, right, chaos, boys. Let's see what we can do and to get ourselves a goal here. So I think it's really, really exciting in terms of the development of the team. Yeah, I love it.
Just on that then, how do you approach the second leg? Is it a case of rotating where we can to try and save people's legs, or is it a case of, Clive, trying to build on the momentum that we've maybe started with in that game against PSV and hope that we can carry that into the rest of our season?
We've got to look at sort of building up our squad depth, and so, for example, Ben White should start that game.
100%.
He should start that game and see how much time he can get, so he can get his rhythm back. He got involved into a challenge that's a bit awkward yesterday, so he needs to get his game rhythm back. I'd like to see other players who just need experience to get onto the pitch and play and do it properly. I think that's really important, because when we do need these players, they're much sharper, they're match sharp. So how we can build depth into that squad. I was hoping Martinelli may come back soon. I'm not sure when that is. Do we need to take a risk on that in the second leg? Obviously not. But if he's fit, is it a chance to get him some minutes without any pressure? Because the quarterfinals is staring us in the face, isn't it? So that's the approach I would take.
It's not far away either, the quarterfinal. It's crazy. It's all come around so fast.
Yeah.
There has been some other big news this week regarding Arsenal's search for a new sporting director. Arsenal are believed to view former Atletico Madrid director Andrea Berta as the front runner to take over from Edu at the Emirates. That's according to reports that have been doing the rounds a little bit earlier on this week. I'm not going to sit here and pretend, guys, that I've, studied this guy. I've looked into him quite a bit since the news broke, and his track record looks pretty exciting. But what's your kind of initial reaction, Clive, to Andrea Berta being seen as the front runner?
It sounds interesting, but me and Adrian had a quick chat before, and we think quite similar on this. I don't know him well enough to say yes or no, but what I would like to see is new knowledge come into the football club. New knowledge, new relationships, different experiences. You only know what you know. right? And so basically, if someone comes in and looks at it with a different set of eyes, we can develop and go to the next level. Because we have hit a bit of a plateau this season. You have to admit it, we have. And so this is the time where, with Edu going, a little bit of trauma, we can say, okay, this opportunity to go again. What does that look like, right? So we can internally promote, but is that really stretching us to our limits to really see what's there? I would like to see someone new come in to bring new knowledge. That's my position, really.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think so. Sometimes you just need someone fresh to come in and challenge the ideas that you have. We've had some brilliant ideas. Things have worked wonderfully. But yeah, as Clive says, we've hit a little bit of a wall. We haven't been able to get certain deals over the line in the last 12 months. Someone coming in with different experiences, different contacts, different ways of working might just freshen things up at a really timely moment. And look, let's face it, I think we're all expecting Arsenal to splash the cash this summer. There's going to be a big overhaul in players. And whoever gets this gig, I think it's going to be extremely popular. I'd like to think they will be, because they're going to be busy and hopefully bringing in some serious talent to Emirates Stadium this summer. So I think it's a great job for somebody. If it's Berta, great. If it's somebody else, you know, I don't mind. Provided, all I care about really is that they're fully aligned with Arteta.
Absolutely. Because
Arteta is the most important person at Arsenal Football Club, and that what he says needs to be taken very, very seriously. So whoever it is has to get on personally, but also be aligned in the way that they see football.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I just think for me, the alignment part is really key and really important. But I think there needs to be a bit of challenge as well.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that you sanity check someone's decisions, whoever that one person is. We all got to a point towards the end of Arsene Wenger's tenure where we were all looking at it and thinking maybe there's a little bit too much control, too much power here. And I think it's that balance, isn't it, between giving Arteta what he needs to work in the way that he wants, but also having that person with authority that can come in and say, I disagree with that, here's why, let's discuss it, let's get to the right solution. And someone with this track record who's achieved what he's achieved with Atletico Madrid, who's had them competing with two of the biggest clubs in world football, let alone in Spain, I think is really encouraging, and I'd love to see him get
I agree, I completely agree with it. I use the word challenge as well. But you don't want friction. No. So there's a balance to be struck there. So
you waste time, don't you, with friction? You waste valuable time butting heads. That's no good, right? So you need to be aligned. So that alignment needs to be worked out almost before you get the job.
Oh, definitely.
And so you think as one. You know, you think about a job as well. The job Edu had, he had the women's team as well, and had the youth team rolling up to him. So this is a broad role. The role may change. There could be a chance for organisational, structural change. So this is an interesting juncture in our history. It really is. It's very important because everybody watching and listening, and we all us three, we're expecting something to happen in the next 2 years, aren't we? That's going to stay in our memories forever. If it doesn't happen, we're going to be asking questions. This is a really important moment. The in tray is clear. It's really clear about what next to do. So you've just got to be the right person to make that happen.
This weekend, Arsenal take on Manchester United at Old Trafford. So joining us in the studio from Inside Devils is Angelina Kelly. Angelina, welcome back to Inside Gooners. Now, I'm told the last time you were on was ahead of that FA Cup tie that Manchester United won. So I'm not sure whose decision it was to bring you back on, but welcome.
I got my prediction correct as well, I just want to say for that. So, but yeah, I think things have drastically changed and got even worse for United since I was last here. So, yeah, I'm sorry to be back. Hopefully I can have a bit of an influence, but I highly doubt it.
So what's your feeling going into the weekend's game? Because it feels like every day you pick up the newspapers and there's some kind of leak from Manchester United about what Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe have done wrong this time. What's the mood like around the club at the moment, and how are you feeling about the game specifically?
Mood's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. I mean, it's quite sad. When you think of, maybe not for Arsenal fans, but I guess as if we're being neutral football fans, you think of Manchester United, the decline that they're in. It is pretty sad. I think for this game, I was feeling more confident because of the Premier League fixture the last time. Going into that game, I had something tangible. I like to walk away from a game with something positive. And I'm really, really struggling week in, week out to find that now. I think there's a stat that I read that when Arsenal have beaten Man United in the Premier League, it's only been by like 1-0 or something. Yeah. So maybe it's not going to be a total bloodbath. But then after last night, and at the time of us filming, Man United haven't played Real Sociedad, I have got no idea what I'm going to be witnessing. But yeah, overall, mood is terrible, and it's just a very, very nervy feeling. You guys had 6 different goal scorers in the Champions League. Man United struggled to have 1. So Rasmus Højlund, 18 games he hasn't scored? I feel sorry for the lad, but it's pitiful.
So you've got Højlund, who's obviously having a really bad run at the moment. Yeah. You've got Joshua Zirkzee, who I'm not sure what his best position is.
I don't think he does either.
I looked at all the stats, all the attacking stats, and 14th is about where Manchester United are in most attacking stats at the moment. Sometimes you're a little bit lower. In terms of conversion rate, I think they're the 17th best team or the 4th worst, whichever way you want to look at it.
I prefer the second way.
Yeah. The question I want to ask you, Angelina, is who do you as a fan want to play up front against the Arsenal? Is it Chido, Obi, or is it one of those players I mentioned?
You know what? It's difficult because Rasmus Højlund, it is kind of sad, and a lot of fans have been saying we need to just pull him now because it's not working. I think when we've played Joshua Zirkzee in that position, it hasn't quite clicked. He's not been horrendous, but this is how bad it is. He's not been horrendous recently, and he's had some good moments, but I think maybe keep him in that position. On Inside Devils, Alex Clarke is desperate for Alejandro Garnacho to start in that number 9 position, which I wouldn't be offended at. My only concern is he does everything right apart from that last decision. That final decision doesn't seem to land. And also, he's been quite good coming off the bench. So when you look at United's depleted squad, is there anyone else that can come off the bench and make an impact? I feel like he's probably the only person that can do that. So that's what makes me nervous about Garnacho. Chido Obi, I think it would be, you can see the headlines, can't you? You know, teenager that snubbed Arsenal, scores a hat-trick against them. I don't think the lad, he seems insanely talented, but he's not quite there yet. I think it would be a big ask to start him in a game like that. I think he would maybe come on at some point, as we've seen. So it goes back to Højlund, and that is just because Man United have got no other options. And maybe Amorim at this point is thinking, I don't know, if I just keep playing him, will it click eventually? But, you know, for people that watched the Fulham game, he got bullied. It was quite, like, I thought I might have to ring someone. Like, I felt so like, is there an authority we can ring that he was getting bullied so badly? Chido Obi comes on and he holds his own. Yeah. So up against your defence, it's going to be a struggle for him. But I think just because of how young Chido Obi is and the fact that United didn't see him as, you know, a starter, the fact that he's not in the Europa League squad, and Jack Fletcher got in over him, Darren Fletcher's son, you know, they clearly don't see him as that kind of player yet, so I think they'll stick with Højlund.
I just feel like with Chido Obi, and obviously we saw a bit of him at Arsenal sort of coming through the ranks, I feel like if I'm Ruben Amorim, I want to protect him a little bit. Yeah. I don't want to put him in the firing line at a time where Manchester United generally are so poor, and he could be the next in a long list of scapegoats. So I think if I was a manager, that would kind of be my stance on that. Clive, look, Manchester United's struggles are obvious. But as Arsenal fans, we can't help but go into games at Old Trafford feeling a little bit nervous. That's how I feel about it. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. The history's there, right? Whenever we go there, Manchester United, they find their Sunday best, don't they? And they tend to play well against Arsenal. In the FA Cup game, we spoke about mood, Angelina. I think the mood with the fans behind that goal, Manchester United dominated the stadium in that game, and the players played for them. I think the mood has got worse since then, and that's my worry in front of the home fans. That disconnect between the players and the fans could really manifest itself into a poor performance. And okay, now Arsenal have found their scoring boots. It could be different. The mood is key to any football club, and the things that are happening at Manchester United off the pitch to staff, that's a real worry for just normal people. It's a real worry. But I feel sorry for the fans that go every single week that they're seeing this happen to the club and seeing hundreds of millions going interest payments. It must be absolutely soul destroying. But back to the football, I'm hopeful that Man United don't find their courage and bravery like I did in the FA Cup game, and we can go from there.
Adrian, how are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, a lot more confident after the PSV performance, that is for sure. What I would like to see is a repeat, because Manchester United don't have a lot of attacking players, full stop. I mean, the way that Amorim sets up with sort of full-backs as wing-backs, he doesn't have many natural goal scorers in the team. Often there's just 3 attacking players in the side. So I think Arsenal can afford to take risks in this game. We can afford to release that handbrake that we were talking about and play with that buccaneering adventure that we saw in the Netherlands. I want to see mayhem again in terms of our movement, because I think it could, if it can bamboozle PSV, it can absolutely do the same to Manchester United, who are in a bad place. So Arsenal will never have a better opportunity to play in a slightly carefree manner than they have this weekend. Because let's face it, the pressure of the title race is kind of eased a little bit, hasn't it? Let's go there.
Come back in there.
Let's go there.
Clive still thinks we're going to win it.
Well, let's go there. Let's go there and just rip it up and have a little bit of fun and hopefully torment the Red Devils. Yeah.
Angelina, we've been talking a lot about Man United's off-the-field problems, right? And it's fair to say that those problems stem back a long way. Ruben Amorim, though, he's come in. I feel like he has a responsibility to try and stop the ship sinking before he then moves on to start implementing his style. I guess he would argue that if you don't do it from the beginning, you're never going to get that message across. But what's the mood from the Man United fans at the minute towards him? Is there a feeling that he hasn't done enough to try and deal with the issues that exist, and that he is so laser focused on this style of play that he wants to implement that he's allowing them to sink further and further?
I think that because the Glazers and Ineos, there are so many issues that you guys have alluded to, and even just things, you know, like the redundancies that are happening. You know, I'm from Manchester. Manchester is actually quite a small city in some ways. Everyone knows everyone, and there'll be a lot of people that will know people that have been affected by this, fans that are paying, what is it, 66 quid now to go and watch shambolic football. They'll know people that are being affected by this. So I think fans have got way more focus on that side of the story. Maybe if the club was run better, I mean, probably wouldn't be in this situation, but maybe people would have more of a focus on what Amorim's doing. Fans, in my opinion, from the people that I speak to, get frustrated sometimes with some of the decisions. People think, oh, could he tweak it a bit? Or why is he starting certain players over others, etc. It seemed like it was a bit of a, you know, like a pre-season almost at the beginning, and I think he's kind of taking the Premier League as that, as he's been trying different people starting, different people on the bench, etc. But I think the main issue, and this is why fans are maybe laying off him, is because we know the players are the problem. The player mentality at Manchester United is abysmal, and I genuinely think, and I've said this on Inside Devils, if he, and he wrote it in a pre-match programme a couple of months ago, if I divert from this, it will be like going back to square one, and we're going to have to reset and go through all of this pain again. And I understand what he's saying, because I wouldn't put it past these players. I don't know them personally, but it wouldn't surprise me if he said, right, you know what, guys, we're going to play with something that's more comfortable for you lot. They'd be like, yeah, I told you it wouldn't last. So they genuinely think they can outlive everyone, these players. And I think for fans, even though it's not going well, there is still a style of play, there is a formation, and with Erik ten Hag, that was the running joke of people would say, what's your style of play? What formation are you playing, etc. So I think that because of that, fans are sticking with him. And Man United fans are, I think, in my opinion, maybe I'm a bit biased, I think they're pretty loyal as things go. I mean, you see the way that Chelsea fans react sometimes, and, you know, they're not happy because of A, B and C. You know, I think United fans do sit back and they do take it sometimes, but I think because of the other things that are going on in the players, Amorim's getting away with it a little bit. If things were different, people would maybe be calling it out a bit more.
Yeah, he's not the first port of call in terms of Manchester United's troubles, is he? That's for sure.
Yeah.
We've got two of the best tactical minds in the business sitting here, so I've got to ask you guys, in terms of Amorim's system, which we've touched on, Clive, I'll start with you first. Does that suit Arsenal? The fact that they're going to play with the wing-backs, the fact that they set up in the shape that they do, does that suit Arsenal, or is it something that we're going to have to adjust ourselves to be able to deal with?
We've done quite well against those systems in the past. I think I like the system. Honestly, I'll say I like it, but it's about having the right profiles of players in that system, and Manchester United haven't got that yet, you know. And but I've seen it work, and obviously Chelsea did it in the past, and other teams done it in the past. So it's not the system; it's the players within it. I think if I'm setting up, I'm looking at the centre backs. I'm trying to get on the outside of them, and I'm going to try to stretch them a little bit, and I'm going to make them move around and break their solidity there. But when you do that, you have to have the ability to spring out. And I think Manchester are lacking that spring. Yeah. When it goes into Xerxes, it sometimes sticks, doesn't stick. You can go back open again. It's all about, Angela, you're absolutely right. It's all about the players. It really is, to make any system work. And he's made his decision to go with that. And if he wasn't going to do it, he needed to not do it from the first few games. But now he's there, he's got to stay there. So we know what's coming, right? Yeah. We know what's coming.
Sometimes you can park tactics a little bit and just test the opposition. And I think when you've got maybe a fractured dressing room or a dressing room that's a little bit temperamental, the best thing you can do as a visiting team is test them and test them with runs. Let's see how much they want it. Let's see how much they want to follow Declan Rice into the box. Fullbacks. Does Garnacho want to come with Timber or not? Let's try it out. Yeah. Let's not play it safe at Old Trafford. Let's release the carnage and see what they're capable of. I think there will be spaces, but that back three will turn into a back five at times. Of course it will. But if Arsenal's movement is as good as it was against PSV, then Arsenal should win the game.
Let's get some predictions then. Angelina, you're our guest, so you get to go first. How do you see it going on Sunday? It's
so difficult because I hate to come on any shows and be negative about Manchester United, but I'm starting to look really delusional, and it's actually starting to affect me. Like, I feel like people are looking at me thinking, no, I'm laughing with you. You're not even just laughing at me, I'm laughing with you guys. It's to the point where it's a bit like, Angelina, you're really going to try and find a positive in this. And even though I'm on a rival show, maybe I'm going to get stick from Flex and Crooked. No, because Flex has been quite negative recently. So you know what? Unfortunately, I think it comes down to the fact that you guys can score goals, Man United can't. Man United have been showing up for the glamorous games a bit more. City, Liverpool against you guys before. Maybe they'll wake up and feel like they want to play football. But we don't know. So I genuinely think that you guys will win this 3-1.
Adrian?
I'm weirdly confident. I think that our record at Old Trafford is pretty poor, so that makes me feel nervous. But
Old Trafford's not what it was, though, especially this season.
No, exactly. So if Arsenal go there with the attitude that I've been talking about, I think we'll win 3-0.
Clive?
See, I'm a wise old dude. I think I'm taking 1-0 right now because I just know the amount of times I've gone to Old Trafford thinking we've got them this time.
Yeah,
and something we haven't. And so I'll be happy with a 1-0 and talk about it afterwards.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. A massive thanks to Clive, Adrian, and of course Angelina. Next week is an Inside Gooners, Inside Devils combined special. We'll see you then. Take care.